Hi, I'm Ken Lammers. Welcome to Minor League Matters, and today we're going to talk about my Brighton and Hove Albion experiment, in which I decided to see if I would like to keep watch Premier League hockey or soccer, and decided I would follow the Brighton and Hove Albion Seagulls and see how that went. So let's look at the Brighton and Hove Albion. Now here's their season, pretty much all there. Let me tell you, I picked up Brighton and Hove Albion because they had just been promoted from the lower league to the Premier League, right? They had come up this year, and I decided if I'm going to start following any team, I will not pick one of the bandwagon teams, right? I'm not going to pick, the Hotspurs or Arsenal or one of the Mans, Liverpool, Chelsea, the six or eight that are actually really competitive. That I was going to start watching one of the teams that's starting to claw its way into the league and see if it could hold on. And with that came kind of a caveat. I will watch the Premier League as long as Brighton and Hove Albion manages to stay up, right? I didn't know much about the team at all. Didn't know whether they were a team that was really going to be a climber or whether they were going to be a team that was going to be there one year and back down. You know, but so I started the experiment of watching them. Now, unfortunately, this is not a great thing at the beginning because they start them out playing Man City, who just shredded them, right? And so the first three matches were just loss, tie, right? Before they get to a win. And so it wasn't a great way to start out. And, I got to say, as you can look here on the screen, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 wins. And, while a couple of those wins are really impressive, when they beat Arsenal and when they beat Manchester United, which nobody expected at all, and even the tie with Tottenham, with the Hotspurs, is exciting to an extent. But you got to understand, I think this is one of the hugest flaws of soccer. Soccer is an exciting sport in the moment. Just like all other sports, there is a lot of exciting movement in soccer. There's a lot of strategy to watch play on the field. There's a lot of stuff going on, right? But the fact that a lot of times a team plays for a tie, right? It's given strategy in soccer that if you're at home, you play for the win, unless you're against a team that's overwhelming. And if you're away, you play for the tie, right? Um, that's just a terrible way to set up a sport. So that you have an exciting sport on the field that is weighed down by the way the points are handed out for for your seasonal standings. You get 1 point for a tie, and both teams get 1 point for a tie. The winning team gets 3 points if it's a win, right? And consequently, this system means that soccer fans get to see, for the vast majority of teams, uh, more ties and losses than a win. There are a few teams up at the top that have winning seasons. Winning season being defined as one, more wins or more than half of their games are won. You get a few teams that are there, but most of them not. Most of them you end up with ties and losses and a whole bunch of them. And as you can see with Brighton Hove Albion, there were both more losses and more ties than there were wins by the team. Now, to be fair with you, fair to them, this meant they ended up being 15 out of 20 teams in the Premier League, and at times they seemed to float somewhere between 10 to 12 right through most of the season. Now, of course, at the end of the season, they were going to wrap up playing, Man U, Man City, and Liverpool. So they were going to get a real dry spell at the end. I mean, although the win against Manchester United was a good thing. But so they had to get some points in, and they ended up with a total of 40 points. They knew they were going to, at the end, they were going to tail off. So being somewhere in the 10 to 12 zone and then tailing off a little bit at the end is not bad. I mean, you have to stay above 18 or above. 19 and 20 get relegated. And so you stay, 18 and above, and you're good. You're golden. So they beat that by, there were 3 teams between them and the relegated teams. So they did a good job. And I got to say, as much as I don't like the fact that there are ties in the sport and that you play for ties in the sport, their coach, Chris Hughton, obviously knew what he was doing. I mean, he did a really good strategic season, right? If it was a team that looked like they could beat him or make it really tough, he played defense the entire time. I mean, there were matches I watched where there were, of the 11 people on the field, 10 of them were back, between the other team and the goal, and one poor guy was out here. One forward was out here trying to run and maybe get some goal for them, right? But so it was a very smart season. He played everything just right. He got just enough wins to make it work. Probably 1 or 2 more wins than he needed to make it work. He got a bunch of ties, which got him all 1 point each, and that gets him to the point that he gets to go another season in the Premier League, which is the goal. I mean, obviously, you would like to think that a team could come in and be competitive and maybe take Man City on to be in the top 4 and then go off to the real, playoffs, right? And yes, before anybody tells me there's no playoffs, the league only has, who wins ends up at the top. There's no playoffs. That's garbage. You have a playoff because basically Serie A, La Liga, Bundesliga, Premier League. These are all what we would call conferences in the United States. And then after you figure out who the winners are in those seasons, winners, who has most points there, you go on, you play your championship, tournament, which is the Champions League, right? You can say whatever you want about it. That's a championship series, right? It's kind of a strange championship series, even considering it's not played immediately after the season ends, but it's a championship series. Okay, now let me get off my high horse and stop the rant. He knew he wasn't getting there, so his primary goal was to stay above relegation, and he did a really good job at that. I mean, he knew he didn't have the talent that a lot of teams that have been in the Premier League for a long time have. He knew he didn't have, he just didn't have that talent. He hadn't had the money to build a team the way they had, although obviously somebody's pumped money into Brighton and Hove Albion. You look at that stadium they've got, which seats 30-something thousand, I think. That's a nice stadium. Somebody put money into this team. But, still, even if somebody put money into it, that's not the same as getting that Premier League money from TV and all that sort of stuff. So, and as you are in Premier League for a while, getting, your merchandise sold, to a lot more people. And, like idiots like me, I've tried to buy merchandise, except my bank won't let me buy things from England. That's another story. But, so if anybody out there wants to send a triple XL, kit to me, I like the blue and white. But he made it work. He played a really good strategic season. As long as he's there, right, and they get a couple more years, assuming they can keep staying up, they get a couple more years, and he has that money, and they start actually getting higher level players and that sort of thing, I think that, they could rise. I don't know. I'm not saying that I think they're going to rise and compete with the top 6 or 8, right, or the top 6. But I think they can rise to the point that they're solidly in. And then you start trying to make that move to rise to the top 6 or so, right? And that's for the future. But right now, Brighton and Hove Albion has convinced me to stay at least one more year. I mean, that's kind of the deal I made. As long as they stay in the Premier League, I'll stay with. I'll keep watching, which means I'll have to buy NBC Gold again next year and make sure I've got the right package on Sling so I can actually watch them. But I'll do that. And I want to congratulate Brighton and Hove Albion. I mean, they played hard, and I don't think they were really in any danger of being relegated through the whole season. Well, I mean, the first couple matches where they just got slaughtered by, really high-ranked teams, yeah, okay, that's understandable. But after they kind of got going, they were up. I mean, they weren't in a point where it looked like they were going to get relegated after about like game 4 on, right? Which again says really good things about Chris Hughton and his ability to play strategically, play matches strategically, and everything. So, congratulations, Brighton Hove Albion. I'll be around next year. I'll be watching you, and hopefully you'll be able to keep going and get better. So that's it for this week, or this one. Next time probably something about hockey or baseball, things I know more about. Hockey, I'm kind of a neophyte too, but I'll probably talk about something more along those lines. And until then, if you like this, hit like. If you like what you're seeing around here, generally hit subscribe. And of course, until the next time I see you, go watch some minor league sports.